This is not a documentary about strong animals. This is about the evil masterminds of the wild. The real nightmares of nature don't just bite and chase. They outthink, outplay, and outmaneuver their victims with terrifying precision. Orcas, the ocean's criminal mafia, pulling off heists on great white sharks and flipping seals like pancakes. Crows and ravens, feathery gangsters with PhDs in problem-solving, capable of out-puzzling a 5-year-old and holding grudges that last decades. Chimpanzees, the warlords of the jungle, organizing hunting raids, using weapons, and staging violent coups like medieval tyrants. Octopuses, slippery alien masterminds who can break out of aquariums, mimic other creatures, and possibly plan world domination. Arctic foxes, tiny telepathic assassins that use the Earth's magnetic field to dive-bomb their prey with terrifying precision. Dolphins, oceanic party animals who use pufferfish poison to get high and then corral fish with teamwork that rivals military strategies. Komodo dragons, the laziest serial killers in history, biting once and letting bacteria, stress, and sheer dread do the rest. Welcome to Deadly Geniuses, the smartest killers in the animal kingdom. Buckle up, this is going to get weird. In the dark, mysterious depths of the ocean, where nightmares with teeth swim silently, a creature lurks that strikes fear into even the mightiest predator. It's not the megalodon, too extinct, not the great white shark, too overrated, and certainly not that deep-sea anglerfish that looks like it just crawled out of an HR meeting. No, the true kingpin of the seas is none other than the Orca, the black and white striped oceanic mob boss, with a brain sharp enough to scam you out of your life savings if it ever learned about cryptocurrency. Orcas are not just apex predators, they are intellectual assassins, creatures that hunt with strategy, coordination, and a flair for theatrics that would make even Hollywood villains jealous. If great white sharks are the ocean's terrifying lone wolf hitmen, orcas are the highly organized crime syndicate running an empire beneath the waves. They have no natural predators, not because the ocean lacks things with teeth, but because nothing is dumb enough to pick a fight with an orca. And if that wasn't impressive enough, these whales don't just hunt to eat. Sometimes they hunt for the sheer joy of it. Let's talk about the most shocking flex in the animal kingdom. Orcas hunt great white sharks, and they don't just kill them. They rob them in broad daylight like a gang of masked bandits pulling off a high-stakes casino heist. The ocean has always had an unspoken rule. Great white sharks are the top of the food chain, the stuff of human nightmares, the undisputed rulers of the deep. But one day, orcas collectively decided, you know what? We're tired of this narrative. Let's shake things up. It started with a few isolated cases off the coast of South Africa, where shark carcasses began mysteriously washing up, missing only their livers. That's right, livers. Imagine being a 2,000-pound apex predator, spending your life terrorizing seals and surfers, only to end up surgically dismantled by a smarter, more organized killer. Researchers were baffled until drone footage revealed the gruesome truth. Orcas had figured out that shark livers were packed with delicious, nutrient-rich fats, and instead of wasting time chomping through the whole fish, they performed a precision hit, flipping sharks upside down to paralyze them, a phenomenon called tonic immobility, before removing their livers with almost surgical precision. Imagine being a shark in these waters. You wake up, stretch your fins, think about breakfast, and suddenly the ocean's version of the Yakuza shows up to mug you for your organs. It's gotten so bad that great white sharks have literally abandoned entire hunting grounds the moment an orca pod is spotted. That's right. Sharks, the so-called ultimate predators, have fled their own homes like tenants evading a terrifying landlord. If their treatment of sharks wasn't terrifying enough, orcas also specialize in taking down adorable, innocent animals in ways that would make James Bond villains jealous. Take, for example, their wave-washing technique, a strategy used to hunt seals lounging on ice floes. Seals, in their infinite wisdom, believe that perching on an iceberg is the equivalent of being safe from the hungry horrors of the deep. They don't realize they're dealing with oceanic demolition experts who have spent thousands of years perfecting their craft. Step 1. A group of orcas swims beneath the ice floe, analyzing its structure, weight, and whether the seal looks sufficiently terrified. Step 2. They position themselves in a line like a well-trained Navy SEAL team. Step 3. The orcas generate a massive, coordinated wave that smashes into the ice, tilting it just enough to send the unsuspecting seal tumbling into the water. Step 4. Lunch. And if the seal somehow manages to scramble back onto another piece of ice? No problem. The orcas repeat the process until the inevitable happens. Some scientists believe orcas may even practice this technique for fun, honing their skills in mock drills like a group of criminal masterminds, fine-tuning their next heist. But orcas are not just hunters. They are scholars of the sea, passing down knowledge across generations in a way that is eerily similar to human civilization. Different orca pods have their own hunting techniques, dialects, and even traditions. Some specialize in hunting sharks, some in fish, others in seals. Some pods have figured out how to use beaches as hunting traps, stranding themselves temporarily to snatch unsuspecting sea lions before slithering back into the water like it was all part of an elaborate magic trick. And then there are the ones that seem to hunt purely for sport. In Argentina, orcas have been spotted teaching their young how to play with their food, dragging seals around, tossing them into the air like a volleyball, and sometimes just letting them go, as if to say, "You're lucky we're full today." It's like training young apprentices in the fine art of psychological warfare. There's even evidence to suggest that orcas hold funerals for their dead, with grieving pods carrying deceased members for days. This level of social intelligence is unparalleled in the animal kingdom, and it raises an eerie question. Just how much do these creatures understand about their world? Are they self-aware? Are they plotting something? Should we be worried? Orcas are proof that brains beat brawn every single time. Unlike other predators, they don't rely on sheer strength or brute force to survive. They strategize, adapt, and share knowledge like an ancient civilization beneath the waves. While sharks and other predators rely on instinct, orcas invent new hunting techniques on the fly. And the most chilling part, they seem to be learning even faster. Some researchers believe orcas may be actively evolving, picking up new tricks and passing them down at an alarming rate. What happens when orcas become too smart? What if they start coordinating across entire oceanic regions? What if one day they start targeting boats not out of curiosity, but out of revenge? Oh wait, that's already happening! In recent years, orcas off the coast of Spain have started attacking yachts, sinking boats, and teaching each other how to do it. Scientists don't know why. Maybe they're bored. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they're just flexing. One thing's for sure. If there's one animal in the ocean that could plan a heist, a revolution, or even world domination, it's the orca. And honestly, we should probably just let them have it. Orcas are the ultimate proof that intelligence, not just power, is what makes a predator truly dangerous. They outthink sharks, bully the biggest creatures on Earth, and hunt with the precision of a criminal mastermind running a billion-dollar empire. The ocean is theirs. We're just lucky they don't have thumbs. If you ever feel like the smartest creature in the room, take a step outside and look up. Somewhere in the sky, sitting on a streetlight, plotting your inevitable downfall, is a crow or a raven, and chances are it's smarter than you think. While humans have spent centuries praising the intelligence of dolphins, elephants, and great apes, these shadowy feathered masterminds have been quietly outmaneuvering, outthinking, and outright outplaying nearly every other species on Earth. If crows and ravens ever get access to Wi-Fi, we're doomed. You see, while most birds are out there living simple, peanut-brained lives, flying, chirping, and occasionally flying into glass windows, crows and ravens are playing 4D chess while the rest of the animal kingdom is stuck on tic-tac-toe. They solve complex puzzles, use tools like miniature MacGyvers, recognize faces, and hold grudges for years, manipulate other animals to do their dirty work, and in some cases, have intelligence that rivals that of human children. And if that isn't terrifying enough, they actively teach each other new tricks. Imagine being a scientist who has spent years studying animal cognition, only to get intellectually destroyed by a bird with the brain the size of a walnut. This exact scenario has played out repeatedly in labs around the world, where researchers have been left humbled and slightly terrified after watching crows and ravens solve problems that would leave most primates scratching their heads. One of the most famous experiments involved an 8-step puzzle box, a contraption so complex that most animals, and let's be honest, many humans, would have struggled to figure it out. The test required a crow to complete a sequence of actions, including pulling levers, opening compartments, and using sticks to retrieve a food reward. Now at this point, researchers were not expecting much because, again, this was a bird. They assumed it might flail around, peck at random objects, or just give up and start cawing in frustration. Instead, the crow took a step back, examined the situation like a master strategist, and then completed the entire puzzle in minutes. It even solved individual parts of the puzzle out of order, demonstrating an ability to plan several steps ahead. something that most animals, and frankly many reality TV contestants, struggle with. The bird even used tools in a way that would make an engineer jealous. But it doesn't stop there. Crows have been observed bending wire into hooks to fish food out of tight spaces, dropping nuts onto crosswalks so that passing cars crack them open, and even placing sticks in soda machines to pry out coins, which, let's be honest, is probably the first step toward them figuring out capitalism. And unlike most animals, they learn from watching. Once a crow figures out a new trick, the knowledge spreads through the flock faster than office gossip. If you ever make the mistake of angering a crow, you should probably move to another country, change your name, and assume a new identity, because that bird is never going to forget what you did. Crows have an insanely sharp memory for human faces, and they have no problem using it to hold a decades-long grudge. In one experiment, researchers wearing distinct masks captured and banded a group of wild crows for a study. They then released the birds back into the wild, assuming that the whole ordeal would be forgotten by the next morning. They were so very, very wrong. For years, those crows never forgot the masked researchers. Every time they saw someone wearing the offending mask, they would gather their friends, scream bloody murder, and sometimes even dive-bomb the poor human like a feathery mafia squad sending a message. And here's the kicker. They passed this hatred on to their children. Baby crows who were never captured inherited the vendetta simply because their parents told them, "Hey, see that guy? Absolute menace. Ruin his life." So if you ever wrong a crow, whether by scaring it, shooing it, or even just looking at it funny, it will remember, and it will tell all its friends, and its children, and its children's children. There are humans who have feuded with crows for so long that their grandkids are now being harassed by birds they've never met. That's generational warfare. While crows are busy solving puzzles and plotting revenge, ravens have entered their villain era. Not only do they use tools and recognize faces, but they actively manipulate other animals to do their dirty work. One of the most hilarious and borderline evil strategies they employ is tricking wolves into opening carcasses for them. See, when a big animal like a moose or deer dies, its tough hide is too difficult for ravens to break open. But instead of just waiting around like normal scavengers, ravens have learned to go find wolves, scream obnoxiously until they follow them, and then lead them straight to the body. The wolves, thinking they've lucked into an easy meal, rip the carcass open, at which point the ravens swarm in and steal as much as they can. This isn't a one-time thing either. Some researchers believe that ravens actively befriend wolf packs, following them around, guiding them toward potential kills, and then swooping in to claim their finder's fee. It's freeloading on an entirely new level. And to make things even wilder, they've also been observed tricking other birds out of food by pretending they've found something delicious, causing their competitors to drop what they're eating and investigate, at which point the raven doubles back and steals the abandoned food. With their ability to solve problems, use tools, plan ahead, and hold lifelong grudges, crows and ravens might be the closest thing we have to feathered supervillains. They've already mastered teamwork, espionage, psychological warfare, and political corruption. The only thing stopping them from world domination is a lack of opposable thumbs, and honestly, they're probably working on that. What's truly unnerving is that their intelligence isn't staying stagnant. Each generation of crows and ravens is smarter than the last, constantly refining and improving their tricks. If this trend continues, it's only a matter of time before they start hacking into Wi-Fi networks, taking over financial institutions, and figuring out how to vote in elections. So the next time you see a crow staring at you, be polite. Compliment its feathers, offer it a snack. Never under any circumstances make an enemy of a crow, because it will win. And you will never know peace again. Deep in the dense jungles of Africa, where the laws of the wild dictate survival, a battle of intellect and brutality unfolds daily. It is not the lions, leopards, or crocodiles that rule these forests. No, the true apex tacticians of the jungle, the ones waging strategic warfare, orchestrating ambushes, and running their troops like military generals, are chimpanzees. They are the closest relatives to humans, and disturbingly, they share more than just our DNA. They have our violence, our political scheming, and our ability to make war a fine art. Chimpanzees are not just random wild animals swinging from trees eating bananas. In fact, if you hand a chimp a banana, it'll likely ignore it, because they eat a much more diverse diet, including meat. Yes, chimps hunt, and they do it with the same tactical precision as a SWAT team raiding a cartel hideout. This is not mindless killing. This is calculated, strategic, and organized slaughter. They have patrols, they have alliances, and scarily enough, they even have rival factions. If Planet of the Apes ever happens, it won't be a slow process, it'll be an overnight coup. Most people assume chimpanzees are just playful, screeching creatures that spend their days grooming each other and throwing the occasional poop at an unsuspecting zookeeper. And while they do enjoy the occasional biological projectile weaponry, their true power lies in their ability to hunt as a coordinated military unit. In the forests of Tanzania, chimpanzees are expert hunters of smaller primates, particularly red colobus monkeys. Unlike big cats or birds of prey that rely on sheer speed, chimps employ a highly coordinated, premeditated hunting strategy that puts even the most sophisticated human war strategies to shame. First, the alpha male, who is more of a general than a mere dominant figure, assembles his troops. Each chimp is assigned a specific role, just like in a human hunting party. There are the chasers, who will drive the prey into confusion, the blockers, who cut off escape routes, and the ambushers, who wait in the trees ready to intercept any fleeing monkeys. Once the plan is in place, the hunt begins in eerie silence. No screaming, no random movements, just a cold, calculated execution. At the first sign of panic from the colobus monkeys, chaos erupts. Chimps swing through the branches at terrifying speeds, cutting off exits, forcing their prey into a shrinking web of doom. If a monkey thinks it's smart enough to take a last-minute escape leap, bad luck, buddy, because an ambusher is already waiting mid-air, catching it in a brutal, bone-crushing grip. The chimps share the spoils, with the best pieces going to the leaders and allies, while the lowest-ranking individuals beg for scraps. This hunting technique is not instinctual. It is learned, practiced, and improved over generations. Some chimp groups are better at it than others, just like human civilizations with varying degrees of military expertise. And what's even scarier, they get better with time. The more they hunt, the more refined and deadly their tactics become. Now, if hunting in teams wasn't bad enough, some chimpanzees have figured out how to use weapons. And yes, that's exactly as terrifying as it sounds. In Senegal, a group of chimpanzees has been observed sharpening sticks into spears and using them to hunt bush babies, tiny primates that hide in tree hollows. The process is unsettlingly methodical. A chimp picks up a stick, carefully strips the leaves, chews the end to a sharp point, and then stabs it into the hollow repeatedly until something stops screaming. It's like watching a nature documentary on how Stone Age humans invented spears, except this is happening in real time right now in 2025. This is not an isolated incident. Chimps have been recorded hurling rocks at enemies, using branches as clubs, and even stacking objects to reach food in ways that indicate higher problem-solving skills. This level of intelligence makes them one of the very few animals on Earth that actively modify their environment to suit their needs. In other words, they're not just reacting to nature, they're shaping it. But hunting for food is only half the story. The other half is darker, more disturbing and eerily human-like. Chimps do not just hunt for sustenance, they wage war on each other. In the 1970s, famed primatologist Jane Goodall witnessed something so shocking and brutal that it changed the way scientists saw chimpanzees forever. She called it the Gombe-Chimpanzee War, a 4-year-long conflict between two rival chimp factions in Tanzania that involved coordinated attacks, assassination squads, and the extermination of an entire chimp community. The war started when a once unified chimp troop split into two rival factions. At first, there was nothing unusual, just a little tension, some aggressive posturing, minor scuffles. But soon things escalated. One by one, the chimps in the weaker faction were hunted down. Patrol groups were sent out not to hunt food, but to track, ambush, and eliminate enemy chimps. When a rival chimp was found alone, it was surrounded, beaten to death, and left for dead. Over time, the weaker faction was completely wiped out. The victorious group expanded their territory, taking control of the land and resources. The war had clear winners and losers, and for the first time, humans realized chimpanzees were not just our evolutionary cousins. They were miniature versions of our own violent history. Now, not all chimp warfare is about brute force. Sometimes the smartest chimp wins without ever throwing a punch. Such was the case with Mike, a low-ranking male who decided he wasn't going to wait around to be beaten for scraps anymore. Mike was not big, strong, or particularly dominant, but what he lacked in muscle, he made up for in sheer psychological brilliance. Instead of fighting his way up the social ladder, he decided to outsmart the system. One day, he discovered an old oil drum near a research station. Most chimps ignored it, but Mike saw potential. He began banging on the drum, creating a deafening noise that startled every chimp in the troop. The alphas, confused and intimidated by the sudden display, backed off. Mike repeated this stunt over and over until the troop associated him with an unstoppable, mysterious force. Without ever lifting a finger in actual combat, Mike became the new alpha male. This wasn't dominance through brute strength, this was psychological warfare. And it worked. Mike ruled for years, proving that in the world of chimpanzees, brains could be just as powerful as brawn. Chimpanzees are not just another animal species. They are our closest link to understanding how intelligence, strategy, and even warfare evolved. They show us that complex societies, hunting strategies, weapons, and even political mind games are not unique to humans. If chimps continue evolving at their current rate, it's worth wondering, what's next? We already know they can use weapons, plan ambushes, and overthrow leaders using psychological manipulation. If we're not careful, they might just become our first true competitors in the fight for dominance over the Earth. And honestly, we might not win. Beneath the rolling waves of our oceans, hidden within the labyrinth of coral reefs, caves, and the deep abyss, lurks one of Earth's greatest mysteries. A creature so intelligent, so bizarre, and so utterly unlike anything else on this planet that some scientists have seriously proposed the theory that it may have extraterrestrial origins. No, this isn't some wacky conspiracy from the depths of the internet. This is the octopus, a shape-shifting, puzzle-solving, escape artist genius with an intellect that defies explanation. Unlike most intelligent animals, like dolphins, chimps, or even crows, octopuses do not have a long evolutionary history of social learning. They are lone wolves of the sea, growing up without parents, never being taught anything by a community, and yet they figure things out on their own. They solve puzzles, they use tools, they plot escapes from captivity with such skill that even maximum security prisons should take notes. And most unsettling of all, they can mimic, manipulate, and deceive better than the best human con artists. If intelligence were a competition, octopuses wouldn't just be playing, they'd be cheating, rewriting the rules, and then vanishing in a puff of ink before anyone noticed. Imagine a creature that can change its entire appearance in less than a second. A creature that can become a rock, a piece of seaweed, or even an entirely different animal just by thinking about it. No, this isn't some mythical sea demon from ancient folklore. This is just an average day for an octopus. Octopuses have specialized skin cells called chromatophores, iridophores, and leucophores, which allow them to change color, texture, and even reflect light. They don't just blend in, they vanish. One moment you see them, the next they've transformed into an unassuming coral or a pile of sand. A predator swims by, oblivious, and the octopus? It's just sitting there thinking, probably judging everything around it. But perhaps the most disturbing thing is how they use this ability for deception. Some species, like the mimic octopus, take disguise to an entirely new level. Instead of just blending in, they pretend to be something else entirely, something dangerous. The mimic octopus has been observed impersonating venomous lionfish, sea snakes, and even flatfish, just to avoid being eaten. And here's the real kicker. It chooses which predator it's dealing with and adapts accordingly. If a predator that fears sea snakes approaches, the mimic octopus will contort its body into long, winding coils, writhing like a venomous snake. If the predator isn't afraid of snakes but has a history of avoiding lionfish, boom! Suddenly it has floating spiky fins, as if it were the ocean's deadliest pincushion. This isn't instinct. This isn't luck. This is an animal actively assessing threats, strategizing, and executing an appropriate disguise in real time. If that doesn't scream alien intelligence, I don't know what does. It's a well-known fact among marine biologists that keeping an octopus in captivity is an absolute nightmare. Not because they're aggressive or difficult to feed, but because they escape. Constantly, over and over again, like the reincarnation of a professional safecracker. In aquariums around the world, octopuses have picked locks, squeezed through the tiniest gaps, and even crawled out of their tanks at night, only to return before anyone notices. One famous case involved Inky the octopus, a resident of New Zealand's National Aquarium. One night, Inky pushed open the lid of his tank, slithered across the floor like a slimy ninja, found a drain pipe leading directly to the ocean, and escaped into the wild. It was the perfect crime. Another octopus in a German aquarium figured out how to short-circuit a light it didn't like by shooting water at it. Instead of tolerating the irritating brightness like every other animal, the octopus decided, enough of this nonsense. and proceeded to systematically disable the facility's lighting until the confused staff realized they were being sabotaged by an 8-armed genius. There are also cases of octopuses breaking into other tanks to steal food. A marine research facility once noticed that its fish population was mysteriously dwindling, despite no signs of foul play. The culprit? An octopus sneaking out of its own tank at night, slipping into the neighboring fish tank, eating its fill, and then sneaking back before sunrise like some sort of tentacled jewel thief. These creatures aren't just escaping, they're thinking, planning, and in some cases taunting their captors. At this point, octopuses are so unlike any other creature on Earth that some scientists have suggested that they might have evolved intelligence through an entirely separate evolutionary pathway. For context, vertebrate intelligence, which includes humans, apes, dolphins, and even birds, evolved along a shared linear path. Our brains developed gradually, growing bigger and more complex over millions of years. Octopuses? They did something completely different. Octopuses belong to the class Cephalopoda, which means their closest relatives are snails and clams. Yet while their shelled cousins remained as slow-moving, brainless blobs, octopuses underwent a radical neurological evolution that no one fully understands. Their nervous system is so wildly different from ours that most of their neurons aren't even in their brains. They're in their arms. Yes, you read that right. Each of an octopus's arms can think, react, and even operate semi-independently from its main brain. If an octopus loses a limb, the severed limb can still move, grasp objects, and even try to escape for a while before realizing it's no longer part of the main body. This decentralized intelligence is so bizarre that some researchers believe it is evidence of an entirely separate form of cognitive evolution. Some go even further, proposing that the unique structure of octopus intelligence suggests a biological pathway that could be similar to alien life. After all, if we were ever to discover intelligent extraterrestrial creatures, wouldn't they look nothing like us? Wouldn't they function with an entirely foreign nervous system? Perhaps one eerily similar to an octopus's decentralized, shape-shifting, problem-solving mind? If octopuses continue evolving, where does this lead? They already use tools, escape from captivity, solve puzzles and deceive predators with precision so advanced it would make a human spy jealous. What happens if they start passing down their knowledge across generations? What happens if they figure out how to work together in organized groups instead of living solitary lives? For now, octopuses remain confined to their oceanic domain. But every time one escapes, every time one breaks into another tank for food, every time one figures out a new trick faster than we expect, the unsettling question lingers: are we underestimating them? Because if octopuses ever decide to rise up and claim their rightful place as Earth's true intellectual overlords, we might just be the ones trapped in the tank. In the frozen wastelands of the Arctic, where the wind howls like a banshee on a bad day and temperatures regularly plummet to the level of "why do people live here?" survival is an extreme sport. Nothing about this place is forgiving. The land is covered in snow so thick that even the most determined predator would struggle to find a snack. Prey animals, the ones unfortunate enough to live in this barren, ice-crusted world, have adapted by staying hidden beneath layers of frost, building elaborate tunnel systems under the snow and praying that nothing up there has X-ray vision. Enter the Arctic fox, a pint-sized, fur-covered assassin with an ability so mind-boggling that even scientists had to double-check their data. You see, most predators rely on their eyes, their noses, or sheer brute force to catch their food. The Arctic fox, on the other hand, has decided that the laws of physics do not apply to it. It hunts using sound, picking up the tiniest vibrations from deep beneath the snow, and then launching itself face first into a frozen abyss with the grace and accuracy of an Olympic diver.
And here's the kicker. This little fluffball isn't just guessing where its prey is hiding.
Oh no, it has precision targeting capabilities that make guided missiles look outdated. In fact, some researchers believe that Arctic foxes can detect seismic activity, similar to the early warning signs of an earthquake. If that's true, then congratulations, humanity. We have officially been outdone by a tiny, snow-loving, four-legged psychic. The first time a researcher watched an Arctic fox hunt, their immediate reaction was probably something along the lines of, "What in the actual hell was that?" You see, Arctic foxes don't do things the normal way. They don't stalk, chase, or pounce gently like a civilized predator. No, they yeet themselves into the snow like furry missiles, disappearing headfirst into a white abyss, only to emerge seconds later with a squirming, very confused rodent in their jaws. But this isn't just some random strategy. The fox is using a built-in targeting system that borders on supernatural. Beneath the snow, small animals like lemmings and voles scurry about, completely invisible to the naked eye. If a human were to try and find them, it would be like trying to hear a whisper in the middle of a thunderstorm. But the Arctic fox, it has ears so finely tuned that it can detect sound waves bouncing off the ice, pinpointing the exact location of its prey. Here's where it gets even crazier. Studies have shown that Arctic foxes are significantly more successful when facing north. Yes, north. Scientists have scratched their heads raw trying to figure out why this happens, and the leading theory is that the fox is somehow using Earth's magnetic field to assist in its hunting. That's right. This animal has an internal compass so precise that it can calculate trajectory, wind speed, snow depth, and prey movement all at once before launching itself into a frozen freefall of doom. If that doesn't impress you, let's put this into perspective. The fox is hunting prey that is completely hidden under solid snow, in freezing conditions, with no visual cues, and relying only on sound and Earth's magnetic energy to make a kill. If a human tried this, they would die within 5 minutes. All right, let's get weird for a moment. Scientists have been studying how animals react to seismic activity for years. And guess what? Arctic foxes might actually be able to detect earthquakes before they happen. The idea sounds like something ripped straight out of a disaster movie, but it isn't completely insane. Certain animals, like elephants, dogs, and even toads, have shown signs of detecting tremors before humans do, possibly by picking up on subtle ground vibrations and changes in electromagnetic fields. But Arctic foxes, they seem to take this to another level. Their entire hunting strategy is based on listening to sounds beneath the ground, filtering out insignificant background noise from actual movement. Some researchers believe that this skill might extend beyond just hunting. If a fox can hear a tiny lemming moving underground, what's stopping it from detecting the deep, low-frequency rumbles of shifting tectonic plates? There have been anecdotal reports of Arctic foxes suddenly changing behavior before earthquakes, acting restless, leaving their dens, or even moving away from certain areas before seismic activity begins. While no formal study has confirmed this yet, the idea is tantalizing. Because if true, we have wild foxes with a built-in earthquake alarm system that's more accurate than most of our technology. Now, if you thought that Arctic foxes were just silent, dignified assassins, you'd be wrong. These creatures are hilariously sneaky, and when hunting isn't an option, they turn into four-legged con artists with a talent for high-stakes food heists. In one particularly shameless case, an Arctic fox was observed stalking a polar bear. Yes, a polar bear, as it hunted for seals. Now, polar bears do not share food. They do not offer polite invitations for dinner. They eat and everyone else stays the hell away unless they want to become part of the menu. But this fox, it had zero fear. As the polar bear tore into a freshly caught seal, the fox casually approached, acting as if it had some kind of diplomatic immunity. It circled the kill, waited for just the right moment, and snatched a piece of meat right from under the bear's nose. The bear, shocked by the audacity, looked up in confusion, possibly questioning all of its life choices. Before it could react, the fox had already disappeared into the tundra, its prize secured, its dignity intact. This wasn't an isolated incident. Arctic foxes have been stealing from larger predators, scavenging human camps, and even manipulating situations to trick other animals into giving up food. If wolves or bears leave a kill unguarded for even a second, a fox will swoop in, grab what it can, and vanish like a ghost. Arctic foxes have mastered survival in one of the most hostile environments on Earth by becoming nature's most efficient little assassins. They use the planet's magnetic field like a GPS. They listen to seismic activity like earthquake detectors, and they steal from some of the deadliest predators alive. If that isn't next-level intelligence, what is? But here's the real question. What happens if they get even smarter? We've already seen that they adapt, learn, and refine their skills. Some foxes have been seen using objects to break into storage areas, and others have figured out how to track human movement for easy food sources. If their intelligence continues to grow, we could be looking at a future where Arctic foxes become the ultimate survivalists, capable of predicting disasters, avoiding predators, and outsmarting their environment at every turn. For now, they remain mysterious, cunning, and undeniably badass. But if the day ever comes when they start hunting with strategy, manipulating other animals, or even working in coordinated teams, well, let's just say that the Arctic might not be big enough to contain them. Dolphins have long held the title of the golden children of the ocean, Humans love them. They star in movies, feature in beachside murals, and are marketed as oceanic angels of joy and wisdom. But if there's one thing nature has consistently proven, it's that the creatures we think are innocent are often hiding some seriously weird and occasionally horrifying behaviors. Bottlenose dolphins, for example, aren't just intelligent, playful, and acrobatic. They might also be oceanic junkies, tactical war generals, and on occasion, chaotic serial killers. For decades, marine biologists have marveled at the intelligence of dolphins. They communicate in complex clicks and whistles, use signature names for each other, and can even recognize themselves in mirrors. But recently, another layer of their intelligence has surfaced, one that suggests they might be a little more experimental than we ever imagined. You see, some dolphins appear to have discovered the fine art of getting high, and their dealer? None other than the notoriously toxic pufferfish. If you've ever seen a pufferfish, you know that it's the ocean's version of an overinflated balloon. Cute, until it turns into a spiky death trap. These little guys are packed with tetrodotoxin, a powerful neurotoxin that can paralyze predators in seconds. One wrong bite, and the unlucky animal goes into full-body shutdown mode, floating in the water like an unconscious ragdoll. Most creatures have learned to avoid them. Dolphins, on the other hand, they've turned pufferfish into their personal stash. In what can only be described as the most reckless marine experiment of all time, dolphins have been observed deliberately handling pufferfish, not eating them, but gently chewing and passing them around like a suspicious cigarette at a college party. And what happens next? The dolphins enter a trance-like state, floating just below the surface with a dreamy, vacant look in their eyes, as if contemplating the mysteries of the universe or planning their next grand scheme. Scientists aren't entirely sure why they do this, but the theory is that the small doses of pufferfish toxin create a mild narcotic effect, making the dolphins feel euphoric without actually poisoning them. In short, they may have discovered a way to get just the right amount of intoxicated, like stoners carefully calibrating their edibles to avoid a bad trip. And this raises a hilarious and slightly terrifying question. If dolphins are smart enough to experiment with substances, what else are they doing that we don't know about? Now one might assume that a high dolphin is a useless dolphin, floating through the ocean in a state of philosophical bliss, pondering the meaning of waves. But here's where things take an unexpected turn. Some researchers believe that this altered state might actually help them hunt. Dolphins rely heavily on echolocation, an ability that allows them to see with sound like an organic submarine sonar system. If the pufferfish toxin affects their nervous system in just the right way, it could potentially heighten their sensory perception, allowing them to hunt with even greater precision. Imagine a predator that can already navigate the dark, murky depths of the ocean using only sound, and then imagine it gaining an even sharper ability to sense movement. That's what we might be dealing with here. It's possible that the pufferfish microdosing ritual isn't just a form of recreational fun. It could be an evolutionary strategy, an accidental discovery that turned into an advantage in the cutthroat world of oceanic survival. If true, this would be one of the most bizarre and fascinating examples of animals using substances to enhance their abilities. As if getting high wasn't enough, bottlenose dolphins have also developed some of the most advanced fishing strategies in the animal kingdom. If your idea of a dolphin hunting session is just some chaotic splashing and hoping for the best, then prepare to be humbled, because these creatures have taken teamwork to military-grade levels. One of their most impressive techniques is called mud ring feeding, and it is so sophisticated that if humans developed it, we'd probably give ourselves a fancy title like Marine Tactical Engineers. Here's how it works. A group of dolphins strategically swims in a tight circle around a school of fish, kicking up a swirling wall of mud from the ocean floor. The fish, seeing this opaque death trap form around them, panic, and in their desperation to escape, they do exactly what the dolphins want them to do. Instead of staying put, they launch themselves out of the water, literally jumping straight into the waiting mouths of the dolphins. Yes, these fish are so perfectly manipulated that they commit self-delivery into the jaws of death. It's the underwater equivalent of a bank heist, where the bank itself voluntarily hands over the cash and asks if the robbers need help carrying it out. This technique is not instinctual, it is learned and taught. Dolphins pass this knowledge down through generations, and not all dolphin pods use it, meaning different groups have developed their own unique cultural hunting methods. This suggests that dolphins have traditions, knowledge transmission, and possibly even different fishing schools across the ocean. For all their playful antics and high IQ brilliance, Dolphins have a dark side that is rarely talked about, because the reality is they sometimes kill for fun. Unlike most predators who kill purely for survival, dolphins have been observed attacking porpoises, sharks, and even their own kind, seemingly without any real reason. In some cases, dolphins have been seen slamming porpoises into the air like volleyballs, playing a game that ends with the porpoise's untimely demise. They don't eat them. They don't need them. They just do it. The reason behind this bizarre behavior is still debated, but some theories suggest it could be related to territorial disputes, dominance, or even sheer boredom. Because when you're one of the smartest creatures in the ocean, life probably gets a little dull sometimes. Dolphins are already at the top of the oceanic intellectual food chain, experimenting with substances, developing hunting strategies that rival human military tactics, and occasionally committing unprovoked acts of war just because they can. The question is, what happens next? Will dolphins continue evolving their hunting techniques, refining their use of echolocation-enhancing substances, and passing down knowledge in ways we can barely comprehend? Are we seeing the first signs of a species on the brink of an even greater intelligence revolution? And more importantly, are they laughing at us? Because with everything they've been up to, it's starting to seem like we are the clueless ones, floating through life while dolphins run their secret underwater empire. One thing is for sure, if dolphins ever figure out how to use the internet, we're in big trouble. In the blistering heat of Indonesia's remote islands, where the air is thick with humidity and the ground crunches beneath the weight of ancient reptiles, a silent horror stalks the land. It is not a lion, nor a tiger, nor a venomous snake, but something far more sinister, a creature so ruthless that its primary hunting strategy involves slow, agonizing psychological torture. Meet the Komodo dragon, the closest thing the modern world has to a living dinosaur, and possibly the pettiest, most sadistic predator in existence. Unlike most carnivores that chase down their prey with speed and power, the Komodo dragon has developed a far more elegant solution to hunting. It simply bites its target once and waits for nature to do the rest. And by nature, we mean infection, gangrene, stress-induced heart failure, and the slow realization that no matter how far you run, the dragon will find you. When you imagine a predator at work, you probably think of something fast and brutal. A cheetah sprinting after an antelope, a shark striking in a blur of motion, or a lion crushing the windpipe of a zebra in seconds. The Komodo dragon, it doesn't believe in all that effort. Instead, it prefers the long game. First, the dragon stalks its target, be it a deer, a wild boar, or on rare occasions, an unlucky human. It moves with a casual swagger, as if it's not really interested in the hunt at all. It gets close enough to lunge and then delivers a single, seemingly unimpressive bite. The wounded animal panics and flees, thinking it has narrowly escaped death. But here's the twist. It hasn't. In fact, it's already dead. It just doesn't know it yet. The Komodo dragon's saliva is a biological nightmare, teeming with over 50 different strains of bacteria and, according to newer research, mild venom that prevents blood clotting. The moment its teeth sink into flesh, the clock starts ticking. The prey, now with a festering wound, limps away, thinking it has survived, only to grow weaker and weaker as the hours pass. The infection sets in. The fever rises. The body shuts down. And the whole time, the Komodo dragon follows from a distance, watching, waiting, not running after its prey like some desperate, panting cheetah, but strolling leisurely through the jungle like an apex predator who knows exactly how this story ends. After a day or two, the unfortunate victim collapses, delirious, exhausted, and no longer able to fight back. Only then does the dragon return, not to kill, but to feast. It digs in while the prey is still barely alive, consuming flesh, bone, and even hooves, because why waste perfectly good leftovers? It is the laziest, most efficient assassination method in the animal kingdom. For a long time, scientists assumed Komodo dragons were solitary hunters, lone wolves of the reptilian world, following their bite-and-wait philosophy in single-player mode. But recent research has thrown a terrifying wrench into that belief. Komodo dragons have been observed hunting in groups. Yes, multiple dragons working together, coordinating attacks like some scaly crime syndicate. Picture this. A herd of deer wanders through Komodo National Park, blissfully unaware that they've just walked into the worst restaurant in the world. Instead of a single Komodo dragon lunging at one animal, 5 or 6 emerge from the underbrush simultaneously. Some block escape routes, others move in to deliver the infamous infected bite, and the rest? They stand back and let nature do what it does best, slowly destroy the victim's will to live. Once again, there's no real chase, no battle, no need to exert unnecessary energy. The dragons just watch as their victims weaken, collapse, and accept their fate. This kind of organized hunting behavior was once thought impossible for reptiles, yet here we are, watching these prehistoric serial killers refine their tactics. You'd think that an animal that can grow up to 10 feet long, weigh over 300 pounds, and eat literally anything it can catch would be satisfied with deer, wild pigs, and the occasional unlucky monkey. But no. Komodo dragons have a history of sneaking into human villages. In parts of Indonesia, where Komodo dragons roam freely, people have learned to always check under their houses before stepping outside. Why? Because sometimes there's a dragon chilling under the floorboards, waiting for a snack. There have been multiple cases of dragons wandering into villages, stealing food, and on very rare occasions, attacking humans. While they don't actively hunt people the way they do deer, they're opportunistic, which means if a Komodo dragon sees a human who looks slow, sick, or distracted, well, you might just become part of nature's slowest horror movie. Even scarier, they've learned that humans sometimes carry food. Some villagers report dragons breaking into outdoor kitchens, raiding fish markets, and even stalking people who are carrying meat. Imagine casually walking home with groceries, only to turn around and see a 10-foot murder lizard following you like a hungry dog. In one particularly chilling incident, a Komodo dragon was found waiting outside a house, staring at the front door for hours, as if it knew that sooner or later, someone had to come out. The reason Komodo dragons are so disturbingly effective as hunters comes down to one thing: patience. Unlike other predators that rely on speed and agility, Komodo dragons know they don't need to waste their energy. They've perfected the long game, knowing that fear, exhaustion, and the power of bacterial infection will do their dirty work for them. Their strategy works for one simple reason: their prey knows it's being hunted, and the stress alone is sometimes enough to kill it. That's right. Some animals bitten by Komodo dragons don't even die from infection or blood loss. They literally die from stress and exhaustion. And honestly, can you blame them? Imagine being chased by something that never runs, never gets tired, and just watches as you slowly fall apart. It's horror movie villain behavior. For now, Komodo dragons remain locked on their isolated islands, content with their low-effort, high-reward hunting strategy. But their intelligence, ability to adapt, and willingness to push boundaries make them a truly unique and unsettling apex predator. They have survived for millions of years using this slow, methodical death trap strategy, outliving countless other species that relied on speed, brute strength, or pack hunting. And if the day ever comes when Komodo dragons evolve even further, perhaps growing smarter, learning to coordinate their attacks even better, or developing new hunting tactics, then the rest of the world might have a real problem on its hands. Because let's be honest, if an animal that hunts using stress, time, and bacteria starts evolving, we're going to need more than just running shoes to survive. So, what did we learn today? That nature's smartest killers don't just chase. They scheme, manipulate, and pull off heists like criminal masterminds. Orcas run the ocean's mafia. Crows hold lifelong grudges. Chimps stage war crimes. And octopuses are one escape attempt away from running their own space program. And if that didn't blow your mind, guess what? We've got even crazier documentaries coming up. From animals that fight back like action heroes to nature's most ridiculous survival tricks, you don't want to miss what's next. So hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, an orca might steal your lunch, a crow will remember your face forever, and a Komodo dragon, well, let's just say you don't want to end up on their waiting list. See you in the next wild adventure.